All right, guys, the recent release of the Epstein files online has the internet going nuts again with all sorts of theories about Jeffrey Epstein. Some are saying that he's still alive and living in Israel. Now, this image has been circulating online and has caused an uproar. Now, as a lawyer, I'm going to look at the evidence here for all these theories and break it down. But I want you guys to stay tuned till the end because there's truly some shocking stuff in here. We're going to look at the Epstein files themselves and see if any of these theories hold any water. Now, I'm going to dive right into this with one of the most shocking pieces of information from the Epstein files, and it's this anonymous post that was posted on 4chan. Now, this was posted within hours of Jeffrey Epstein's death on the morning of August 10th, 2019. And again, this was posted anonymously. The post said, "Not saying anything after this, please do not try to dox me, but last night after the 4:15 count, they took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not release on the weekends unless a judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number, and a guy in a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think they switched him out." Now, if any of that were true, it would be pretty shocking. Again, it was posted anonymously, and until now, we didn't know who posted it. However, within hours of that being posted, the U.S. Attorney's Office subpoenaed internet records, phone records, bank records, and they identified the person who posted that in the forum. And that person has been identified in the Epstein files as Lieutenant Roberto Grijalva. Grijalva was on duty at the jail the morning that Epstein allegedly killed himself. Now, you have to ask yourself, why would this guy go home and immediately post something like this, knowing that there would be a huge investigation and people could probably find out who it was? But he felt so compelled to tell that story online. Now, the Epstein files also have an official narrative and a timeline of what took place. Let's take a look at that. Again, this is directly from the DOJ's website and the Epstein files themselves. So at 8 a.m., Efrain Reyes, Epstein's cellmate, departs to go to court. At 8:30 a.m., Epstein arrives in an attorney conference, and it says that he's visited by several attorneys throughout the day, which is normal because he's in such a high-profile case. He's going to constantly meet with his attorneys. Then at 6:45 p.m., inmate Epstein departs attorney conference and returns to the SHU, so that's where he was housed. At 7 p.m., inmate Epstein provided a social call, and it says they report that Epstein was in good spirits and nothing unusual. And then they note at the bottom that inmate Reyes, his cellmate, was released from court and does not return to the institution. Now, that's an important piece of information because allegedly Epstein had tried to commit suicide before, so the order said that he had to have a cellmate at all times. So tonight, after Reyes left, this would be the first time that Epstein was alone without a cellmate. But let's assume for a second that Lieutenant Roberto Grijalva's post was actually true. It could only mean three things. One would be that Jeffrey Epstein was taken out of the jail and that somebody else was switched in and that the body that was in the cell at the time wasn't actually Jeffrey Epstein. Then another theory could be that they took Jeffrey Epstein out of the prison cell, they killed him in some sort of way, and then placed his body back in the cell and called it a suicide. And lastly, it could be that Jeffrey Epstein was taken out of his jail cell and somebody spoke to him, and whatever they said made him want to go back to his cell and kill himself that night. But could Jeffrey Epstein actually be alive? So in the Epstein files, a list of known emails and internet handles that Jeffrey Epstein used were compiled, and somebody noticed that he had a gaming account where he used the name Littlest Jeff 1 as his handle. And if you look in the list of emails, there was a Littlest Jeff as the name. Now, this online gaming account shows that Jeffrey Epstein was playing the game Fortnite in 2018 before he was arrested and jailed. But then it also shows that the game was being played as late as 2025 with a version of the game that hadn't come out until 2025. And the location that showed on that gaming profile was in fact Israel. Now, before we get to that first image that purports to show Jeffrey Epstein in Israel, I want to just look at these images that have also circulated online. These images are purporting to show images from Jeffrey Epstein's autopsy, and they try to show that there was a different ear shape and a different nose shape of the body that they said was Jeffrey Epstein, and that the actual images of Epstein show that the slope of his nose was different, and that also the shape inside his ears were different. But even if those images are real and the body wasn't Jeffrey Epstein, it still wouldn't prove that he's alive now over 6 years later. However, this controversial image has popped up online and has stirred all sorts of debates. Now, people are saying that it claims to be from September of 2025, and this is Jeffrey Epstein, and he's with 2 bodyguards who people are also claiming are Mossad agents. However, this image has a Google watermark, which would lead us to believe that it was produced with AI, and when you run it through things online, it appears to look like it was AI. However, people are arguing that that image at first didn't have the watermark, and then people trying to cover up and debunk this theory placed the watermark on it. But for me, just looking at the image, it looks like the 2 guys look almost like the same person, so it doesn't really seem to be real people. Now, somebody else also pointed out that the street sign in the image doesn't exist in Tel Aviv, as in that street isn't a real street. So that would also point to the image being a fake. But obviously it looks like Jeffrey Epstein, and if they were trying to make a fake image, then that could actually be him just using AI in the image. But regardless of whether this image is real or not, that doesn't discredit the story from the Lieutenant Roberto Grijalva, and it doesn't discredit the Fortnite game theory. And I don't really know what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. I wasn't there on the morning of August 10th, 2019. But we have to ask ourselves, why would somebody want to keep him alive? And my answer to that question would be because he had some dirt on them. He was trying to blackmail them. And then the simpler answer to that would be, why wouldn't they just kill him? Because if he's alive, then he can always talk. He can always hold this over their head. So it would make more sense. The easiest way to shut him up would be to have him killed. And that doesn't discredit this lieutenant's theory either, that they could have took his body out or took him out and then replaced it with a body. And I think that that is a logical conclusion. I don't think we'll ever have the answers to this, but as everybody was saying back in 2019, it was constantly online. They would say Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And I don't think we'll ever know the real answer to that. But that doesn't mean that he's alive. It doesn't mean that he was murdered. It means that people think that he didn't kill himself. And now that these files have come out, I think it just raises more questions. There's a lot of stuff in there to sift through, and every day it seems like somebody's coming out with something new. But what we do know for sure is this is going to go on a lot longer, and we're not going to have all the answers we want. People are still waiting on JFK to find out what really happened, and I think the same thing's going to happen here. I think we'll never really know for sure. Guys, do me a favor. If you like this video, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe to this channel, and stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.